Some good music, man. It's funky. We're gonna be talking about some real estate today because the home buyers, man, they're getting their revenge. They're getting their revenge good, and I don't. You know what? I can't blame it on some of these people. Some of them might maybe not deserve, but some of them, man, they're getting it. Well deserved as far as I'm concerned, especially with the home builders. So a little housekeeping, just a little thing. Crow Homestead is in the chat. I don't know if you guys read above there. He sent me a few articles about what they're saying about the global real estate market. I have yet to finish reading everything he sent me. I'm going to be getting to that, I promise you. I didn't even realize it was 3:17. I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta make my tea. I gotta get ready. I didn't even realize, because I was so engrossed in those articles. But once I read them all, I promise I will share my thoughts on it. I have no issue with that. So we have a guest on today. He is from the Maryland housing market. He's a good friend of mine. You guys may or may not remember him, but he's been on my show several times. Mr. Malcolm Lawson.
Hey, everybody. Come on down.
Look at that beard, man. Look at you.
That's why they don't recognize me. That's why they don't remember me. Yeah.
You went so clean cut to this beard, man. Does it help you sell houses better, or is it just that you needed more covering because the housing market's cooling off, so you needed a little bit of face covering?
Global warming, right? It's getting colder outside. I need to keep my face a little bit warmer. I don't want to invest in a scarf, so I'm just grow my own natural scarf here. I look at it.
I dig it. It makes you look distinguished.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I like it.
Malcolm has an outdoors channel too, so this goes in theme with his outdoors channel.
Yeah, clean shaven on that channel. Like, people make fun of me. So
well, yeah, but you were ex-military, so yeah. I hope everybody was remembering all the service members. Yes, was it Friday, and got to do anything for your fellow service members. If you guys don't remember, there is a project that's on Facebook that gives the Purple Heart Cane Project. It's on Facebook, and they give Purple Heart recipients free canes that they've handcrafted out of wood and stuff. So if you haven't yet, go over there, give them some support on Facebook. So just thought I'd throw that out there.
I love that.
Yeah, no, I do too. And they're really into it, man. They hand carve this. They have a big ceremony when they deliver you the cane.
Wow.
If a family member has since passed, and you'd still want a cane, they'll even do that. So I just thought that was pretty nice.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah. It's just something, anything, anyways. So you and I were talking about it. You're like, what do you want to talk about this week? And I'm like, I'm talking about how the buyers are finally getting their revenge. And you went, yes, they are. So what are you seeing in your real estate market before we get into the article?
It's like a sequel to a really bad summer blockbuster movie, right? In this one, the buyers are getting their revenge. Yeah, I'm seeing it's just brutal being a seller right now. So it's actually brutal being a seller and a buyer. A year ago, I would have killed for some listings. Now I've got listings and they're just not moving. And we have to do price reduction after price reduction after price reduction. And it's not fun selling a house right now in this market. It's not always great buying a home though either, because the interest rates are, so high. And everybody's worried about, what they're going to do, if they're going to keep going up or keep going down. So financing on the buyer side is a little bit more challenging, but yeah, the buyers are definitely asking for a lot more from the sellers. We're seeing a lot more home inspections, a lot more repair requests, a lot more seller contribution to the closing cost. The sellers are definitely getting beat up right now in the market.
They have so much equity in their house though. I mean, it's kind of like funny money,
right?
They're like, oh, I'm losing $10,000. Are you? You had the house for 5 years. You gained a lot of equity in it. That was not even real $10,000. The housing market went up so high. Are you really losing $10,000? I mean, I don't know.
You got to put it in perspective and look back at when they bought it. Your house is still up $200,000 since you bought it,
right?
3 or 4 years ago. But I still get sellers sending me hey, well, why is my house at $400,000 when this house sold at $500,000 12 months ago?
That's a year ago.
It was 12 months ago. Yeah.
And if you're selling a house or buying a house, you have to look at the most recent sales. I'm talking the last 6 weeks, because the housing market has changed so much in a lot of areas. Some areas are still going up though. That's the part that kills me is you can't put a blanket statement that the whole housing market is cooling off. I mean, unless you're taking the housing market as a whole. And, yeah, of course, there's going to be areas that have gone down, Austin, Texas being one of them, Phoenix, Arizona. But not all of them are going down. There's places in Florida that continue to go up. Are they going up at the rate that they did last year? No, no. But you got to keep that in mind.
Yeah, I feel like when you're looking at comparing comparable homes that have sold recently, you almost have to like look and see what the interest rate was at that time. Like, yeah, this house sold for 500,000, but interest rates were at 4%. We're at 6%, 7% now. And like that's kind of how I justify it to my sellers is I tell them like what the interest rate was when that house sold, and that makes a pretty big difference, I think.
Well, yeah, because all right, it happened so fast. So there were people they qualified for a $500,000 house until the interest rates changed. So they like if they couldn't find a house and it had been like 5 weeks, they went from one interest rate to another. Now they only can afford they're qualified now only for like 420, because of the change in the interest rate. They can't afford the payment. You got to put the payment. And that's what most people forget is like people are payment driven, and then they're like, interest rates blow. I can't really understand that. How much is my payment going to be? If it goes up this much, how much more am I going to have to pay every single month? Because people structure their lives around what their payments are every month.
Mm-hmm.
So if, then it comes down even more. And that's where the biggest problem is that there isn't enough affordable homes. So if the interest rate is super high, now that they only qualify for a less expensive home, there isn't that many homes that are below that $300,000, $200,000, even $100,000 range. It's just impossible to find unless you're really like digging in your pocket to do a lot of repairs. And, most people aren't qualified to do those kinds of repairs and then try to find somebody to do plumbing. Plumbers are the hardest part to find, hardest thing to find. So let's talk about this article I found on CNN. Let's get into this really quick. Okay. Da-da-da. If Eddie can pull it up for me, please, my friend.
Movie magic. Whoosh.
Well, you know what? They changed the buttons on this whole live stream thing. So I'm sure he's having a little thing. Not that CNN Business is my top rated place to get real estate advice, but here I liked the article. First time home buyers are being shut out of the market like never before. They said the magic words in this article. I was like, that's what I've been saying. Skyrocketing home prices are climbing. Interest rates are pushed to the share of first-time home buyers to an all-time low. So there's less first-time home buyers than ever before, according to the new report from the Association of Realtors. And those first-time home buyers were the oldest they have ever been, meaning the age of the first-time home buyer has gone up. As the growing lack of affordability forced people to wait longer to reach the milestone like buying a new home. First-time home buyers made up about 26% of all home buyers in the year of 2022 of June, down 34% the year before, according to National Association of Realtors in 2022 report on home buyers and sellers. That was the lowest in the survey in 41-year history. The share of buyers purchasing their first home sat between 30 to 40% over the past decade, and that reached a high at 50% in 2009. The age of the first-time home buyer also rose to a typical age, reaching 36 years. That's up from 33 years last year. So they're actually 3 years older. The typical repeat buyer's age climbed as well to 59 years old instead of 56. Wow. Both are at all-time highs. As home prices soared, the mortgage rates rose. Buyers' income dropped as well. The median household income for the first-time buyer slipped to $71,000 during the year ending in June, down from $86,500 the previous 12-month period. Meanwhile, repeat buyers had a median income of $96,000, down from $112,500 from the previous year. Buyers typically purchase their first homes for 100% of the asking price, research showed, with a 28% more than asking. So 28% were offering more than asking price. This was the quote that I was like, this is it. First-time home buyers, the lack of affordability is playing a key role in holding them back from home ownership. There isn't enough affordable homes. thank you, Jessica, a lot from and National Association of Realtors, Vice President in Demographic Behavior Insights. They don't have the equity that repeat buyers have down for the down payment or to buy in cash. They have to save while paying more for rent, as well as student debt, childcare, and other expenses like medical. And this year, we're facing an increasing home prices while mortgage rates are still climbing. So the first time home buyer, and I noticed this last year, like they're much older. They're
Yeah.
much older. But another statistic that everybody's like, well, everybody's living in their mom's basement. Nope. More and more people, less people live with their parents than ever in history, which shocked me. So they'd rather pay that rent than live in their mom's basement. That doesn't surprise me.
So I feel like you've been talking about this trend for years now
I
that,
have.
essentially like the big plan is that nobody owns their houses, everybody just rents. And like they're executing that plan year over year over year. And they're doing that by pushing that age of the first time homebuyer back and back and back and making it more and more unaffordable. Like this is you've literally got dozens of videos talking about this, and like they've made huge progress on those goals, unfortunately, over the last 2 years with this pandemic.
Well, and when I first started talking about it, I had other real estate agents like show me all these graphs and everything else and saying, "Oh, it's affordable because the interest rates are down." Like, there's no supply. That's like, there's no supply of affordable homes on the market. You can make those interest rates down to 0, but you have nothing to buy. It means nothing to somebody. It means literally nothing. Like, we're going to give you all these incentives for first-time home buyers, but if there's no supply of affordable homes for them to purchase, what are you doing? What are you
Right.
doing? And so, like, they're like, "Oh, this whole thing, this whole affordability is a gimmick." There are, of course, there's more affordability than ever because of low interest rates. I'm like, it's like beating a head on, like, like, where are the affordable homes? Show me. Show
Yeah.
me.
That stat of the 36-year-old first-time home buyer, like that's so shocking. So I'm 37 now, and I've now owned 3 different houses, and I bought my first
Mhm.
house when I was 25. Like I can't imagine not buying a house until I'm this age and just paying more in rent, and a big portion of your rent is just profit for somebody else. Like you're really hurting whole generation of people are just not getting access to the largest builder of equity and wealth in this country. They're just not getting access to it. And it really is unfortunate.
We got our first house when I turned 27, and I remember feeling like I was so far behind.
Yeah.
Because I had heard, like, friends of mine, they bought a house. I'm like, "How did they do it? How did they afford it, man?" Like, I'm so far behind, like, I'm a loser because I like, how when you're young, you think these things. Like, you're young and you feel like you have to reach these milestones by a certain age, like,
Yeah.
I in my brain, I had to be married by 20, like, when I got 25, I was like, "Man, I'm an old hag," like, no, like, wow. It's so crazy. Now you don't even think about that kind of stuff.
No, yeah, that's so young, 25. Like, geez.
What surprised me about that article was the fact that even buying your second home that you've gained equity is 59 years old. I mean, that's heading into your like close to your retirement age if you're buying your second home. And are those people that buying their second home, are they downsizing or are they upsizing? Like that would be an interesting statistic. Eddie, I
And,
missed that last thing that came up. Uh,
yeah, and I wonder how is this going to affect everybody 30 years from now when those people go to retire? Like they don't have all this equity built up like everybody else, or they haven't owned a home for 30 years and completely paid it off. How's that going to affect their retirement down the road? That entire generation right there.
I don't know. The housing market to me is like bipolar. Is the most bipolar thing that has happened. Because when I first got in the market, it was just starting like in my early years. Everybody's like, "You better buy a house. You better buy a house. You better buy a house." So I bought a house and I got it at 7.5%. And then the interest rates came down and I felt like my mortgage guy messed me up. He was trying to screw me over because I got a better rate. No, I couldn't have, but that's because that's what the rates were at that time. But I didn't know, like I just didn't know. And then and then the housing boom happened and I was like, this is insanity. How can they do this? because they were building so many houses all around Orlando. And I'm like, my house is not worth $235,000. I think it had gotten up to like 255. I'm like, this little house that was built in the 90s is not worth 255 in this neighborhood. And I was right. It wasn't, and it didn't take long. But once the housing collapsed, because I knew so many people had gotten those interest only loans or those stated income loans. Like one of my friends was in a humongous house. And I'm like, she doesn't make that much money. How can she afford that? Like this whole thing going on right now feels completely different. Yeah. And everybody likes to compare it to that last housing crash, but we don't have as many houses that were built this time. Even at the beginning of the pandemic, home builders stepped out. They were like, no, we're going to hold off because they were afraid they were going to lose their shirt and they thought the housing market was going to go bad. So the builder sentiment was super bad. And then they stalled on their building. And now the inventory they do have, they're selling them in bulk to investors.
Oh, wow.
Especially like in Phoenix, Arizona, they're just selling whole streets to investors
to rent out and turn into rentals.
Yep. Yep. That's why I keep telling people, if you approve a new neighborhood in your area, go to those board meetings and make sure they cannot put more than, like, let's just say 20% of the houses can go in for rental units.
The frustrating thing is rents have gone up too. So the house prices have gone up.
That's going to go down soon. That's going to come down.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, right now they're still really high. It may take 6 months, 12 months for them to come down. I feel like everybody gets locked in on these 12-month leases. So rents it probably takes a lot longer for those to come down than other prices would.
Next year, this time, they will not be that high. Yeah. Because a lot of, even 9 months ago, because builders were they were starting to have builders sentiment, they felt really icky about the housing market. They started going to multifamily units. And they started we're going to stop building single family. We're going to go to multifamily. Large investors are increasing buying up homes in Philly. Here's what it means for your owners and renters. Yep. Yeah, that isn't just Philly. It's all over the place. This was that article that came out October 13th. In cities as different as Philadelphia, Richmond, Virginia, Jacksonville, Florida, large institutional investors are increasing up buying of single family homes in distressed neighborhoods, turning them into rentals, which threatens home ownership and wealth building for residents, according to a report researchers of Drexel University and Reinvestment Fund. These cities with most distressed neighborhoods define places with low prices, high vacancies, and elevated mortgage denial rates. Home sellers sell to investors in more than 1 of 5 sales. Wow. That came out in a report from September.
1 in 5. That's 20% of the market right there.
20% of the market. 20. Well, and you got to remember, investors love a deal, man. So if they can find a house, a house where all they have to do is kind of put a little lipstick on the pig and charge a pretty good rent, and they bought it cash for, let's just say $100,000, they're all over that. They're like wolves salivating, they love that stuff. Yeah. Every time I've ever shown an investor a house that literally smells like dog pee, the roof is falling in. I mean, it looks terrible. And I'm like, I would never buy a house here. They walk up and they go, it's a gem. I love it. They love them. The cheaper, the better. The worse, the better. They were like, we'll make this into a golden gem. Yeah. Ian says, it might sound odd, but have you ever seen an individual use a stethoscope on a load-bearing beams to detect termite infestation? I have not personally seen it. We have something called here Formosum termites, and you can stand in a house, and if it's dead quiet, you can hear them chewing. You don't even have to. You don't even have to, but my ears know everything. Typical sound generated by such a small insects like termites are faint, thus rarely heard by humans, although technically possible to hear these sounds to the property, to hear these pests at work with your wall in your walls. Eddie, that is, you have to remember, Edward, my eyes are over 50. Those words are so tiny. There we go. That's at work in your walls, and you would need a stethoscope or a specialized equipment. Yeah, so the termite inspectors that come out, they don't necessarily have to listen to them. It's easy for them to detect here. I don't know if it's different in other states, but they go in the house, and if you look at the where the crown molding is, if you see little pinholes that have come through, and then they'll look at the little pinholes, and then sure enough, right where the pinhole is, there's like little sawdust that's accumulated on the kick rails, or I can't think, floorboards.
Right.
It has it piled up there. And then so they'll go there, and then they'll go up in the attic, because that's where it was. They'll shine a light through there, and the other guy goes in there like, yep, we got him. And then they'll start sticking a pencil. And sure enough, like, it's like paper here, like crumpled up paper. Termites are bad, and these specific type of termites that we get here, if you get them, they'll eat concrete. They're called formosum. They are
Wow.
horrible. They will eat up a garage in less than a month.
Wow. So we don't have that bad of termites. So we have some termites, and they build these little mud tunnels
Yep, we have those too.
on your foundation. And that's how you can tell they're going from the dirt up your foundation into your house. So we have those. And then we have carpenter bees here. And the carpenter bees, for like decks and like fascia wood, like external wood, they drill these holes into the wood. I got them on my deck, and I got this like little carpenter bee trap that's like squared away on my deck and actually captures them. But we got they're giant bees, like big, thick things. And they just kind of burrow right into our decks and wood like that. So that's kind of a big issue for us.
If you are buying a home, you should hire a bug company to come out. In Louisiana, we have something called a insect report, termite insect report. We call it a termite report, but that's not. It's like wood destroying insect addendum. That's what it's called here. And they go out there and they check to see, like you say, the carpenter. We have carpenter ants, those carpenter bees, termites, and then they'll identify any kind of termites they have. And if that comes up, that is on the expense of the seller here. They have to repair it because it was their damage. Just FYI.
Right.
Byron has a question. Byron has been the commentologist for the last couple days, the last couple streams. Byron wants to know, do you think affordability comes down to how prospective buyers manage their own finances? No, I don't. No. I'm Generation X, and what I had to face growing up is not the same as kids today. I didn't have student loan debt that they have. I didn't have the medical costs that they have. What they face now is completely different than the generation that I grew up in. And I see it with my own kids, and everything's just so expensive. I remember paying for car insurance and how much money I made and everything. The cost to live today in comparison to the cost it was for me to live at the same age my daughter is now is a lot harder on them than it was on me ever. And I know that like everybody likes to, well, that's because they drink Starbucks coffee. It isn't the coffee. It's not the coffee that's causing the problem. Life in general is just so much more expensive and harder on younger generations than it was for us.
Yeah, I agree. And I think like inflation plays a really big role. Like all the factors for affordability are mostly out of our control, like the interest rates, the home prices, and then inflation. Because with inflation, like all your costs all go up, but your pay increase, if you get any pay increase, it does not match inflation. It usually lags behind it significantly. I think inflation is at almost pretty much 10% in the last 12 months. How many people have gotten a 10% raise in the last 12 months? Almost nobody has.
Mm-hmm.
That plays a much bigger factor in affordability than how often you go to Starbucks or, all these little things that Dave Ramsey will preach about,
Well, income hasn't matched inflation for eons, and that's why there was always that proposal that, like we increase minimum wage, right? Because, minimum wage used to be that it was the minimum amount you needed to survive, right? And then it became, well, minimum wage was just something you paid kids. And so I think that has dragged things down over the years. You can actually if you really like want to go jump down that, like really depress yourself, so start digging into how inflation and incomes have not matched up. Like, it used to be that your local postmaster would be able to afford their own small little house, and now that you have to have two incomes coming in order to afford a house. It's just a totally different world.
Yeah.
Nathan H with the $2 super chat says, any thoughts on buying an entire block? Any thoughts on buying an entire block? Well, for institutional investors, I mean, they do it. They don't care. The problem that happens, let's just say an institutional investor buys a block of homes in Atlanta, Georgia. Everybody, and I'm not knocking renters, but people that rent homes do not have the same pride of ownership as people that buy homes, that they own the home. They're more likely to, fix up things quickly. They're more likely to, keep up the yard and add more landscaping and that kind of thing. And these big investors are not really jumping on there to get those items fixed. They take a while to, like, if you have a leaky, whatever, you call them and you say, I have this problem. They'll put you off for a while, especially the bigger companies. And they'll, oh, we're just going to send somebody out. We're going to send somebody out. And God forbid you get it fixed yourself, because then you're breaking your lease, So that block of homes that would be owned by that institutional investor would probably not look the same as the rest of the neighborhood. If I was on a local committee and that needed some kind of approval, I would immediately say no. I would not allow for that. That would just be me. What do you say, Malcolm?
I'd say if you have an opportunity to buy an entire block, like that would be really cool. Like if all your properties were right next, if you had like 4 rental properties all right next to each other, like how convenient would that be? And
Right.
If you kind of like fix up one house, then that's kind of raising the value of all 4 of the houses. You have that control of your neighbors. I sold a house recently, and the house behind them was abandoned and foreclosed upon. And the other house on the other side, the neighbors had all kinds of trash and the yard is overgrown. And that was our biggest complaint on the feedback of the house that I was trying to sell.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have an opportunity as an investor to buy 4 homes all right next to each other, like that's kind of a cool thing. You can kind of have an impact on who your neighbors would be. But I'll say, like, that's pretty rare for something like that to come along. You kind of have to know somebody. But let's say you could get 2 houses that are right next to each other. That may be a little bit easier to pull off.
I'm not worried about like the small investor that's buying a couple houses. I'm talking about like the big dudes, that buy whole city blocks and whole neighborhoods and stuff. Nathan has another follow-up with a $2 super chat. I need a audio super chat.
Yeah.
Super chat. Thank you. Nathan, quick follow-up. Any thoughts on home co-op? What do you think of home co-ops?
Can you give me an example? What do you mean?
I'm assuming like maybe like a townhome that you have split in half and you live on one side and the other side is for a rental. That's what I'm assuming.
Yeah. Oh, like co-occupants, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking that they mean by that.
I mean, so you crunch the numbers. Make sure you crunch the numbers. I have seen in some markets where people have gotten like a house and turned it into a duplex, thinking, well, great, now I got 2 different rental properties. Well, I say one thing with that is that, well, you also have twice as much work. You have 2 different leases, 2 different tenants you have to keep up on, 2 different tenants that you have to worry about being late, and you have to vet and everything. So even if I could split a house into 2 and make an extra $100 or $200 a month, I don't know if it'd be worth it just for the headache of now having 2 tenants. And you just need to crunch those numbers and see if it has actually, you'd get more money splitting a house into 2. Sometimes you may get more money by taking a duplex and just turning it into one really nice house and renting it out. So like every market's a little bit different. You got to do your research into something like that.
Yeah. I do want to like get back on track a little bit is the home buyers with getting more than they had before. Some of the home sellers that the builders, I mean, the ones that were saying, oh, like we're going to go ahead and cancel your contract unless you want to pay an additional $100,000. A lot of those now are running back to the real estate agents when they weren't willing to pay anybody a commission and they were just selling them outright. I got an email from a big brand builder with letters in their name, and I'm not going to say who they are, but there was a $10,000 commission to the buyer's agent to sell houses before December.
Wow.
And then they were giving $10,000 to the buyers for closing costs, and a upgrade package that included, which we don't do here, refrigerators, washers, and dryers. That's not something that's ever given in new homes here. And they were offering blinds. So they were willing, they want to close out the year. So they're sweetening the pot really good. So if you are in this position, rake the builders over the coals, take them to the laundries. Some of them deserve it really, really well. Take them. What do you think, Malcolm?
Do you think that they're worried about the housing market in the home values, and maybe they just want to like get rid of everything just in case interest rates do go up to 9% or something?
This particular builder has their spreadsheets set up in yearly increments. So just like car dealerships, they need the remodels from 2022 to be done so they can start their models for 2023. They're going to be building homes no matter what the market is.
Right.
No matter what. I missed Lawnmower's comment, Eddie. Can you throw it back up on the screen? There it is. Amazon can hear everything I say, but McDonald's can't hear no pickles from the drive-through. The Lawnmowers has the best comment. He was one of those people that you could adjust your specifics of your house on Zillow. And since he was the homeowner, he would say he has like 10 bathrooms and in 5 bedrooms. And then he would just count it because he wanted to see what the Zestimate said, because, the Zestimate isn't worth the time that they put into it. And so he was always updating me on what Zillow said his house was worth now that he has 10 bathrooms and 2 bedrooms.
Well, luckily Amazon is literally built into homes these days.
I don't know if I would buy a necessarily smartphone or smart home that's already connected to Amazon and Google and all that stuff,
How scary is that? Yeah.
I want a dumb house that's energy efficient, but I don't want it to be connected to the web. That makes me nervous, Like one day somebody at Google's like, we're going to shut them all in the house. Like we can't get out. Kelly Hahn has a question. Kristina, can you define affordable housing again? Okay, so some people have this idea that affordable housing is like Section 8 housing. And yes, that is a form of affordable housing. But my definition of affordable housing is the median income for the area can afford the median home in the area. In most areas, the median income in the area cannot afford the median priced home in the area. Affordable housing is generally defined as housing on which the occupant is paying no more than 30% of gross income of housing costs, including utilities. That number right now, most people are paying over 40% to live in an apartment. They're paying over 40% of their income to live, to find a place
That's
to live.
scary.
That's terrible. It's disgusting. And, there's a lot of people making a lot of money right now, but it's all going to come back to you. Karma is a real thing. Yeah. But, everybody defines affordable housing as something, something different. So, I just think that there should be housing for everyone that can afford a house. Like if you are working and you are paying your taxes and you are a part of the society, you should be able to find a place in that area to live.
If you can't, somebody messed up, right? There's corruption, or the city planners, somebody dropped the ball. If you're working a full-time job and you can't find an affordable place to live by yourself,
Well, that happens in a lot of areas. Like, do you know the Living in Montana channel? The, what's his name? I can't think of anyways, he is in Bozeman.
Big video, right? Like 1 million views.
Yeah. He lives in Bozeman, Montana. And they have like literally set up little campsites for the people that work during the summer season at the resorts. so that, because they bought up all the houses in the area, and anything that was affordable is now no longer affordable. So in order for people to work there, they have them in these little like campsites, but they
Wow.
make good money working there at that time of year. So they'll stay there. The younger generations will stay in those campers because they'll make the money for the summer and go back to college. But that sucks. I don't know.
You know what else they do is like, if all, like here in Maryland, all the good paying jobs are in DC, and there's nobody can afford to live in DC. So there's people that drive and commute an hour and a half a day just to get a good job, and just to have affordable housing. They have to drive an hour and a half, 2 hours away every day. Like, how does that affect a society on a macro perspective? Like, that's less time parents spend with their kids every single week. That's more money they spend on car maintenance and gasoline and everything. That has really big negative consequences to a society, that centralization of work and making everybody commute for longer distances just for affordable housing.
I find it interesting though, because Gen Z no longer defines success through money or your job. Like they just don't. And so they would much rather be happy living in a small house outside the city and working in a local community than having that big job in the city where they had to drive an hour and a half. They want to spend more time with their family. They want to. So
Yeah.
they were willing to sacrifice the income just to be able to do that. I find that very fascinating because that's so the opposite of what I remember growing up. Like it's a status symbol. Your job was a status symbol. Did you see what Lawnmower said about how he changed his
Yeah.
1 bedroom, 1 bath, 800 square feet, no garage? Zillow still shows it at 650. Those estimates, man, they're accurate. Thank you so much. Loves the channel. Keep up the good work. If you guys have any questions, make sure you type the word question first, and then you're followed by the question so Eddie can find it, because he's the man in the background pulling up the questions.
Producer.
He's the producer. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Jeanette has a question. I own a very small home in SoCal, California. Local realtors say it's going up while Zillow says it's going down. Who is right? Okay, so if you don't trust the real estate agents, ask them where they're getting their data, right? So the data doesn't lie. The data doesn't lie. Zillow's estimates have always been a gripe. They've been sued so many times, but because it says in the very fine print that these are just estimates and we're going by an algorithm that we've created, it doesn't mean it's really not worth a can of beans. So those real estate agents that say that it's still going up in your area, ask them for a CMA, which is called a cost market analysis, for your area for the last, let's just say, 3 months of homes that have sold in the area. That way you can see how much they were listed for, how much they sold for, and if they gave any concessions, like we were talking about, like the $10,000 in closing costs, or anything that they would have given to the buyers. It will have that on there, so that way you can see. And then they usually break it down in like a spreadsheet type style, and then they'll break it down in like a chart type style, and like you can find it in different ways, so that way it'll be easier for you to read it. But yeah, just ask them to prove it, lady. Show me the data, because anybody can say anything, but once the numbers are in front of you, data doesn't lie. That's what I say.
Right. So there is a thing with real estate agents where, in order to get a listing, somebody may say, "Oh, I could sell your house for $700,000. Don't you worry." They get you on a contract, and then they just try to do price reductions. Like, there are some agents that kind of use that tactic. So if they're saying home prices are going up, they might be right. But yeah, go find some data. And I'd say that the best thing you can do right now is go on Zillow and look by past sales, and you find some comparable homes to yours in your area that have sold in the last month or two. Like, that would tell you a much more accurate depiction of what your home's value really is, rather than this estimate.
My parents sold their house years ago in Florida, and I sent over 3 agents to interview with my parents. And this one agent said that they could sell my parents' house for $700,000. And my dad was like, My dad was like, really? She's like, yeah, we can do it. Like, and she was kind of going over her thing. And he walked out the door. My mom's like, that woman's nuts. He was like, $700,000. She just wants the listing. He's like, what is she thinking? Like, there's no way this house is worth $700,000. And he knew it would have sat on the market forever if they started off at a price like that. But then, like, another agent came in and said, this is how much the things have sold. This is how much I believe we should list at. And this is how long it was probably going to stay on the market at that specific listing price. And my mom and dad are like, hired. Hired. That's it. Yep. So
like
this kid right here. Question: do you think about first-time buyers contacting Airbnb owners and making them an offer? Airbnb investors are being crushed by vacancies now. Oh, I've been saying this. I said this in like 3 videos ago about the housing market, that the Airbnb business is going to get hit hard. I don't think anytime you make an offer, the worst thing that can happen is they say no. You don't know unless you ask. So
Right.
to do something like that, absolutely, 100%. See if they'll do it. A lot of these Airbnb people, they kind of like some of the home sellers took people over the coals. They didn't clean up their Airbnbs. They didn't have it ready on time. They overbooked. They just did some stuff. So some of them are trying to get out from what they got into. They overdid it. They overextended themselves. So I don't think it's a bad idea. What do you
I would
think?
say I love the idea, honestly, because like real estate investors do that all the time. They reach out to people who own rental properties and say, "Hey, you ever consider about selling your property?" The hardest part is just getting the contact information of the owner of the house. But with Airbnb, you can literally like message the owners of the house right there. And yeah, if you messaged 100 of them, some of them would say like, "Yeah, I'd be open to selling for the right price."
Mm-hmm.
I think it's not a bad idea. I wouldn't get your hopes up, if they're not initially selling it. But like I've got a rental property right now. I'm really torn on if I should sell the house or if I should continue renting it out.
Continue running it out. I already
Yeah.
made a decision for you.
Oh, I got some divorce bills that I owe. I also got some debt that would be really nice to pay off associated with that. So I'm kind of debating. But
you can use that as, it's a depreciating asset. Like you can
write it off. I know.
write it off, buddy. Like, I don't know. We'll have to talk about that later. Anytime you can keep real estate, it's a good thing.
I think it's not a bad idea. Give it a try. You probably need to do that. I wouldn't rely on your real estate agent to do that, though.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you do it. CC Moon with a $1.99 super chat. She says we're twinning. Did we even plan that?
Oh, you and me?
Yeah, I guess we're twinning.
Look at that, man. Throwing a little white party here.
Yep. Living in Omaha, Dave Manny, $5 super chat says, question, what are your thoughts of Reinventor Consulting no longer producing videos? He said he's quitting YouTube. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I mean, honestly, after a while, if you're doing the same content over and over and over again, right? It gets exhausting. It really is. It looks really easy and it looks like it's a lot of fun. And it is both of those things, but it's also very difficult at the same time. You got to script everything. You got to edit everything. All that stuff takes time. And if you're repeating yourself over and over and over again on a lot of videos, it gets tiring. I bet you he won't quit altogether. I think he's probably taking a mental health break, and that's healthy for anybody to do.
I can attest to that. I've got a YouTube channel, 161,000 subscribers about camping and outdoors. I still make a couple $1,000s a month off that channel. I could be a full-time YouTuber on that channel right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I do not have the motivation or the inspiration anymore to upload any more content to that channel. And for my own mental health, I think having clients and going out showing properties, meeting people face to face, like that's just a better thing for me right now. But like I still have that asset. I could always go back to that a year from now, 2 years from now. So I think it may be something very similar to him. Maybe he's losing his motivation, his inspiration, and he's still got this asset that's going to be producing him money. And he could always go back to it in 6 months, 12 months. It'll be there waiting for him.
Yeah, I it could be. I mean, he was kind of like chasing headlines kind of thing, So it was like kind of like this in the next 6 months, this is going to happen. I don't think it was like evergreen type of content. I didn't watch him too much, but every once in a while somebody would throw me at one of his videos.
I don't know who he is, honestly.
Oh, I'll show you later. Sean Sperry says, who is responsible for Zillow not posting sale prices in Louisiana? Who is responsible? Well, okay, so every MLS in Louisiana has to agree to Zillow to post Zillow like their listings. So our MLS here in Baton Rouge is automatically fed to Zillow, but not all of the MLSs in Louisiana are fed to Zillow. The board has to vote on that. So that might be the individual board. It could be just a glitch too. I mean, computers make mistakes. Do you have that in Maryland?
What's that?
Did your board vote to have the listings posted on Zillow?
I don't know. I don't know anything about that. I don't think so.
It became a big stink because the people, they were like, why are we giving them our listings to post on their national? And like real estate agents like myself were like, all we're trying to do is get more exposure to our listings. And if there's a syndicated national site that everybody could see your listings, then why wouldn't you put it on Zillow? And they're like, you're giving your information for free. Sometimes it's better to listen to your elders. Like I did not even realize what they were collecting, because they were collecting information about you as a real estate agent. They were collecting information as the buyers, like, well, how much are they buying it for? So all those things that they filled out for your reviews and everything, now they know who the buyer is, what they bought, and how much they bought it for.
Yeah. And and have all their information and everything. And they bought Dotloop, right? If you're familiar with that, Dotloop, for everybody out there, is one of the most popular programs out there for real estate agents to write contracts and get our clients to sign those contracts. And I'm very confident they have AI that can scan through that contract and get like names and email addresses and closing dates and phone numbers and all that stuff. And they're collecting all that information on every single listing by owning Dotloop. It's scary how much data they're just collecting on, just like Amazon, just like Google. Zillow's just collecting a massive amount of data. Their algorithm still sucks, but they at least have a lot of data about all these homes.
Yeah. And the people who buy them and the people that sell them and what they purchase next. Because, like I didn't realize because they kept pushing us to get people to do the, like have them make that review. It's really important. They're constantly sending us emails. You sold a house, have them do a review. And I'm like, if they don't want to say anything nice about me, I'm not going to make them, I'm just not that person, but now I know why they were pushing so hard, because they wanted that data to sell it. It's crazy. Mia's mommy says, question. So does buying at the end of the year give you leverage, or is that specific to this builder? Anytime you have the ability to purchase a house, it gives you leverage. There's a report out there that says that next year in mid 2023, that we're going to see 5% interest rates again. I don't know how they can, like, these are the experts that say this, right? I don't know how true that is, but yeah, you can leverage anybody that has sitting on a house for a while. The house has been sitting there for, let's just say, 60 days. They're starting to sweat, whether they're a new builder or not. They're sweating. Why isn't their house selling? So you have a lot more leverage because they've been sitting there for a long time. What do you say, Malcolm?
Yes. Yeah. You have a lot more leverage. Absolutely. They're a business, and a lot of them have investors, and they had to write quarterly reports to their investors and annual reports as well. So they want to have some really good numbers. And really just in general, like November and December, that's not when a lot of buyers want to buy a house. So there's not as many buyers in the market historically. And so, yeah, you may get a little leverage, a lot less competition in those months for buying a home. So I'd say go for it. It's not a bad time at all.
The bigger, like, national builders, it always is that, like, November, December, they offer like a lot more. That's when they offer like ridiculous closing costs. They didn't for 2 years because, they knew that they didn't have to, but they know that this is the time of year that things slow down. People don't want to put their house on the market, and they're trying to capture in and close out with strong. So that's what they do. Just like car dealerships, when the new models come out, what do? They try to clear out their lots. They give more incentives for them to put in the new models. So,
right.
Yeah. Neva says, do you handle USDA guaranteed? Also, someone from USDA on YouTube said you cannot buy property and build a manufactured home to put on it. I've heard I've heard on YouTube that you can get a loan for land and also a mobile home. Do you want me to tackle this? Because that's
This is
yeah,
you. It's your alley right here.
okay, you can get a USDA loan for a manufactured home. I think the restrictions have they've tightened those restrictions. Like they like require more things that they used to, like the skirting around the manufactured home has to be on there. There's more loan requirements for that. It can't be over a certain age. You have to be able to get the plate. There's a plate that's inside the home that tells you all the specifics of that. You have to have a copy of that, everything. So yes, you can, but you're going to have to follow their regulations. It says, oh, look at this, manufactured homes, US. Look at that, USDA rural development, manufactured homes. Yep, you can. And matter of fact, like I know this is going to make people blow their heads, but the Biden administration has been working to make more rural areas available for manufactured homes. So they're rezoned to allow for manufactured homes where they weren't in previous administrations. So that was one of the things that they came up with their home affordability initiative. So yes, you can. There's a whole PDF on there that tells you all the restrictions that you have on there. But yes, you can, and you can do that with a VA loan too. I've heard lenders say you cannot get a VA loan with a manufactured home, which is not true. You certainly can.
Yeah. The frustrating thing is like lenders are like wrong about the VA loan a lot. Like they really, it's so frustrating. Is I'll have people tell me like, oh no, my lender said I can't buy 2 homes on the VA loan. Like,
that's not true.
Of course you can. I own 2 homes right now. Both of them are on a VA loan. Like if you're buying multiple homes, there is a maximum that you can borrow, and it's dependent on the county that you live in. You have to do a little bit more research into it, but you absolutely can. And it's so frustrating that lenders sometimes don't know what they're talking about.
I think sometimes it's because they're only going by what their boss tells them.
Right.
So even though it's possible, it may not be possible with their company. So they think that's the rule, right? In their brain, they're like, well, we don't do that. That isn't something that is offered, but it is offered. It just isn't offered with your specific lending institution,
And some loans are more of a pain in the neck than other loans. USDA loans are kind of a pain in the neck. VA loans are kind of a pain in the neck compared to, a conventional loan. So I think some lenders maybe, I don't want to say anything nefarious, but sometimes they do try to push you towards certain loan programs.
Because there's less work.
Yes.
But and like with a rural development loan, there's 2 underwriting processes. So you get the whole loan package done, and RD has to approve it for it to finish out the underwriting process with the lending institution that you're working with before it finally closes. So that's always one of those things. And like sometimes USDA, when they're going through that process, it can just be a few days, and you can see on the screen like where you are next, because it's for like first come first serve. So you're just on the list, and they'll say, oh, we're getting 10 off the list today. So you can calculate how many days you'll be waiting. And sometimes it can be 30 days. Sometimes it's only 3 days. So some lenders are like, I want to get them all closed really quick, and they don't want to do them. So.
And my recommendation would be work with a real estate agent, get a recommendation for a lender from your real estate agent. And I say that because like my lender, I send him probably 15 transactions a year. And he'll do those pain in the neck things for me because he doesn't want to lose that relationship with me. He'll go above and beyond. He'll work with, tenants. One of the most pain in the neck loans is a VA renovation loan. Real pain in the neck, but I've had my lender do that for me, for my clients. And I'm not sure if he would take on a VA renovation loan if it wasn't for, that relationship that I have with them. So reach out to your agent, see if they got a good recommendation, if they got a relationship they can leverage to get somebody to actually do their job for you.
Mm-hmm. Given the definition, apparently I quoted, it does come down to prospective buyers' finances. Given the
definition you quoted.
Yeah, I mean the one that I quoted from the article, about the 30%. What it can be considered affordable, I guess. I don't know which one you're talking. I don't know which one you're talking about. Which one? Are you talking about what we consider affordable? It says 30% of your income should go towards shelter, and right now it's over 40%. So it does come down to their finances. Beatrice Nora says, question, how has the market impacted modular sales? Oh, this is my question. So modular construction, during the height of the housing boom that we just recently had, was increasing at a rate just as high as traditional home construction. Before the last this boom that we had a couple of years ago, they were just a hair under average per square foot as a traditional built home, but they had better building standards than most traditional homes that are built. And that's why I'm like, look at modular before you even, go into a brand new house. Look at modular. Now, modular homes are just as popular as they ever have been, and they're still behind on getting those fulfillments done. Modular homes, though, have not come down in price per square foot in line with regular housing. They're still up there. They're still high. So it will, it will. But for now, they're still pricey. They're still pricey. Mostly because, their building material costs are different than traditional building, because a lot of them are using things in a factory and they're buying them in bulk, and they've had to wait a long time for things like the spray foams and wiring and all the components that you need to build a home. So they were buying those components at the highest price. So they're not going to take that on themselves, but it will come back. It will come back. Now, manufactured homes, like what you consider a manufactured home, traditional manufactured home, those have come down, which is the first time in history that manufactured homes that went up in price actually came down in price. But they promised that we would see homes come down once the building materials came down, which I was like, they always say that they're full of crap. And then all of a sudden they did. I was like, oops, I'm going to eat those.
They've been saying that since the start of 2020. They're saying, oh, there's all these delays in shipping, building materials have gone way through the roof. I wasn't expecting to see the prices come down of any of that. Yeah,
I was surprised at manufactured homes. They did. They did. There's a guy on YouTube here, Carrie Tarno. He's out of Canada, and he bought his manufactured home at the height of the market. And then he was like, a few months later, he's like, prices are coming down, and do I regret buying it at the height of the market? No, but kind of stinks, and that's his business. I mean, he sells manufactured homes. He didn't think it was going to go back down either. Sucks. Question, do you use Frankly MLS in Maryland, DC, and VA? No, we got something called Bright MLS, and so that's in Maryland, Virginia, New Jersey, and parts of Pennsylvania. So Bright MLS is what we use. Mm-hmm. It's okay. It's good enough. We use Paragon MLS here. Yeah, how do you like it? I think they're all pretty much the same. Yeah, I think so. We're lucky though. We get a lot of extra stuff with our MLS than most. We didn't have to ever pay for signature stuff that came with our MLS. We have something called a Assign, and then we have 3 different CMA creators. We never had to pay. That was part of our dues. So, they give us a lot of crap. I don't complain. Next question, if we have any questions to go up there, Eduardo, or if you want to share something really cool. Eddie's gonna put up a question. West Coast local. Kristina and Malcolm, what factors do you see will shift the market in the next 4 to 6 months? Also, tune in for your experience accuracy in these changing times. What do you think are going to be the shifting factors of the market? Yes, 2 things. One is going to be interest rates. Mm-hmm. So interest rates, they went up 7%, and then they came back down to 6%. That is going to have a direct impact on the market. If that goes up to 9%, suddenly those buyers that can afford $400,000 can only afford $350,000. That's going to have a huge impact on the market. But if they go back down to 5%, 4%, suddenly those buyers can afford more.
And it's tricky to say. They're only raising interest rates to control inflation. So once they get inflation under control, hopefully they can lower interest rates back down. But that's going to be a very obvious correlation between the housing market and the interest rates, I think. The next one is going to be inflation. So, in 2021, inflation, let's say it was about 10%, and let's say home values went up about 20%. Well, half of that 20%, 10% of that 20% was purely inflation. It wasn't really the home values going up because of supply and demand. It was purely inflation. And I think that they are going to get inflation under control. Inflation is going to start coming down. And with that, home values are not going to appreciate with inflation anymore. So I think inflation and interest rates are going to be the two biggest factors moving forward for the next 6 to 12 months of home values.
I think that we're going to see a lot of home prices, what I call stagnate. They're not going to go anywhere. They're going to remain flat. We may see a little deduction in some areas, especially if they don't have a lot of new construction in that area to offload that would cause home prices to tank. The next thing that I think could cause home prices to shift greatly is if there was a big reduction in the job numbers. If jobs tank, people can't pay their mortgage and they can't pay their rent. So then you have evictions and people in financial distress. So there would be an influx of homes that would go on the market. Those people are going to be more likely to negotiate with home buyers. And if that means that they have to reduce the price of their home in order to get out from under their feet and have some money in their pocket, they're going to be more willing to do that. So that would be the two factors that would cause home prices, in my opinion, to come down greatly. There's so many different things. There's so many nuanced things. You can't say one specific thing. This is so different from 2007 and 8. We did not have the institutional investors like we have now. They were forced to buy after the last crash because these banks are like, we got to unload all these, this big bundle of homes. We got to unload them. So, Blackstone comes in and says, all right, we'll buy them. We'll buy them. We got to pay out from the government. We'll buy up these houses. And then they found out they could make some serious cash on them. So they're like, oh, we're in it. We're in it to win it. And to this day, if you look up the numbers that supposedly Blackstone owns, they have only said they own 80,000 houses throughout the United States. That's the same number that they've had since 2009, 80,000 homes. But how they get away with it, they say they have over 80,000 homes. So they could have, $3 million home, 3 million homes, 3.4 million homes. But they've quoted that same, we have over 80,000 homes since 2009. It's ridiculous. When they were bought out another company. So anyways, Serenity Cal has a question. Says, have you ever read Airbnb about the Airbnb bust, leaving many homeowners with reduced or no bookings? They were talking about it last year at this time, that there was going to be a problem with it. A lot of people bought what we would consider the most affordable homes and turned them into Airbnbs in areas that they're not even vacation spots. Right. People that live near the beach, near Orlando, Florida, near Disney, Miami, those kinds of areas are not going to have any problems, none whatsoever, with their Airbnbs. They may have some slow times that it's not booked, end to end to end, but they will always be booked. They should hold on to them. But if you have some Airbnb in the middle of the woods that's it's an off the grid camping experience, there's not going to be people that are renting that out. The reason it was so booked for the last 2 years is everybody stayed at home and they were like, you could work anywhere, so people were traveling and going anywhere. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, because we need more affordable homes on the market. If they can turn those Airbnbs either into long-term rental units or just sell it to somebody that's looking for an affordable house, that can't hurt the market. Not for a home buyer.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. Yeah, some Airbnbs, you could rent it out for a long-term tenant for $2,000 a month, or some of them are getting $3,000-$4,000 a month as a short-term rental of these Airbnbs. But that's not true for every house out there. It's not true for the majority of the houses out there. Majority of the houses, if it's not a vacation destination, why would people be coming there? You'd have issues keeping bookings in your Airbnb. and you probably would make more money with a long-term rental than you would with a short-term rental like that.
I think the thought of how many Airbnbs there are throughout the United States isn't as many as people think. I think there's only like 800,000 Airbnbs throughout the whole entire United States. And if, let's just say, every single one of them went belly up tomorrow, that would not make a huge dent in the housing market. Unless it would make it for individual markets that had a lot of Airbnbs in them, but it wouldn't make a big difference to the housing market as a whole.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, this is a good one. Look at this. Stagnation, market then from inflation, interest rates, Airbnb busts, fallout. Look at that. Someone's been paying attention. Cerny Cow has a question. Have you seen the ProPublica report about the company RealPage and its software that uses algorithm to jack up rent and profits despite vacancies, therefore avoiding market pressures? Yes. And do you know what else they've been doing? Some of these big investors, in order to keep those rents up, they intentionally will say, oh yeah, no, we're working on that rental unit. It's not vacant. It's being remodeled so they can keep the rents up in that area. Yeah, I have.
Like what you can't do is talk to like all the other landlords in an area and in a conspiratorial way, like, hey, let's all raise our rents at the same time. But what you can do is simply own 4, 5, 6 rental properties in the same area and raise all of your rents at the same time. And so it kind of sounds like that's what's going on. If they own a bunch of rental properties in a condensed area, they can just raise the rents of all of them. There's nothing illegal about that.
Right. But they were kind of like, it was like almost collusion, what they were doing. So,
well, screw them then. Yes.
Yeah. Big corporation bad. Big corporation bad. So we're following up right on an hour, Malcolm Lawson. If anybody wants to get a hold of you, can you tell them how to get a hold of you?
Malcolm on YouTube. Malcolm Lawson Realtor is my YouTube channel.
Are you posting on YouTube again? Like for your
I plan on it.
I post all here all the time.
I got some good evergreen content on there though that you can follow. Hold on, I got an Instagram account. Let me see what my Instagram handle is, and you guys can follow me on there as well.
Okay, do you have a Twitter handle?
No Twitter. Malcolm Lawson 7 is what it's called. How do you focus? Malcolm Lawson 7 is my Instagram. I'm new to Instagram. Maybe I got to figure out a better handle than that. But yeah, YouTube and Instagram, great ways to get all my contact information. And I do have some really good like evergreen content on my YouTube channel that you guys can probably benefit from.
And if you're having a hard time finding Malcolm, just go ahead and email me at info@KristinaSmallhorn.com and I will get you Malcolm's name. Well, we are friends. We work together quite often. We're always helping each other out. Isn't that right?
I appreciate it, Kristina.
I always appreciate you, Malcolm. Oh, you're one of my favorite real estate friends. Everybody, I want to say thank you to our moderators for always keeping the chat very clean. I appreciate you. Thank you so much to our super chatters today. That was kind of you to send a little money our way. It always helps keep the channel going, just to send a few bucks here and there. I'm always very thankful to you. And I hope you have a fantastic week. Bye-bye. Oh, there's my website. If you want to get a hold of me, you just hit any pink button, and it will take you to there. Yep, that's it. Just fill it out. I'll get a hold of you. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
See you later. Da-da-da-da. Eddie's supposed to be playing music right now. And normally I'm like dancing. Right now, he doesn't have any music going.
There we go. I like it.
Vogue.
Grazie.